We are live tonight. All right. Good night. I want to welcome everybody here to therapy. Oh, not therapy. Fatherhood Talks. Hey, boy, hey, you know when you, hey, this is why they have this little screen so you can know what show you're doing. You're doing so many things. Welcome everybody to Fatherhood Talks. Tonight, we welcome you to join us as fathers to have a conversation to support fathers, for fathers, to lead their families. If you've seen us before, if you're watching right now, I just say to you, like, share, subscribe, join us, listen. I'm sure you will get something out of the conversation that we're going to have tonight. Tonight's topic is good kid, bad kid, and we're going to see where that takes us. Because we probably have a whole bunch of bad kids on here tonight, so we'll see how that plays out. I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I'm a father, of a child. Hopefully, most of the time, I like her to be good, but probably she's more sassy than anything else. Wisecracker. So let the other guys introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Good evening, everybody. Jean Robert Menard, father of two young adults.
Good evening, everyone. This is L. Thomas Alberry, father of two adults and 7 grandkids.
Freddie, father of 3 and 1 grandkid.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Light Bowen. I am father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 4 young men, 3 young women, and 1 granddaughter.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if they can hear me or not. Vaughn Jones here, father of 3, 2 boys, 1 girl.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rohan Rodok. I'm a father of 2 young teenage daughters. And as usual, I'm honored to be with such group tonight to discuss Fatherhood Talks. Thank you.
I think that's everybody. So let's jump right into this. Good dad. I mean, good kid, bad kid. Last week we talked about rich dad, poor dad. I almost want to make a parallel is when we say good kid, bad kid, how do we equate that to poor dad, rich dad? Just throwing out there early in this game. And I think sometimes that's all based on perception, you know, of what someone might perceive or what somebody might think. Who wants to start us off with the idea of, you know, good kid, bad kid? What is a good kid, and what is a bad kid? We have any definitions out there for you guys, fathers, that you would define as a good kid or a bad kid?
I would say, in my interpretation, a lot of times what I see is as a good kid is someone that lives up to the expectations of a parent. Meaning, you know, you want a child to, you know, accomplish certain things or act a certain way, and they do so according to, you know, what you say, you know, or what you try to teach them. And a bad kid is more or less one that doesn't, you know, that kind of follows his own beat, doesn't listen to the parents, may get involved in the wrong crowd. So that's kind of what my interpretation can be. Of course, has still within that has a lot of variables in it.
I would like to add also, gentlemen, regarding children. As a health advocate, we got to keep in mind that children are growing. And when you mention the word kid, in my opinion, would be not an adult. We know that the frontal lobe of a child develops, I believe, at 25. So your child is growing. And as a parent, the child, let's just even use my daughter. She has good grades, but she made a bad decision and gave someone her bank account. They put check to her account. And I said to her, why did you do that? Well, they promised me money. Now, as a father, I'm saying, why would you do that? She said it clearly. I'm going to get a lot of money without doing work for it. And I try to teach her to work hard and be smart. So here we are, good grades, make bad decisions. That's a part of life. So we as advocates for our children, we sometimes they go on that road. Sometimes they're going to go on the road where they make some decisions. And maybe some of us have done that ourselves when we were young. We have to keep in mind, it's a journey, and we have to be there for them when they go on both roads, good and bad. So that's how I will look at it. It's a journey, and that's why it's so important that fathers be involved in their children's lives. That's what I have to say.
So, Rohan, are you saying that? Well, let me ask this question, Rohan, since you brought that up. Would you consider that what your daughter did in reference to her? Would she be a bad kid or a good kid for what she did? How would you equate that?
Well, all right. Her intent, I believe, was to get money, and someone gave her a check to put into account, and she was going to cash the check out and give to the person. So we're looking at a child who's what, maybe 16, 17, and we are saying that her intent, but she doesn't know the consequences of her intent. So because money is a big factor in it with a lot of people, at that point in time, I think she's a bad child, because she made a decision without consulting her parents, knowingly that maybe she would not get the answer that she wanted to get. You get where I'm going with that? So she stepped on the bad road, so to speak, until she got caught. Now, what do you do? Well, I took her phone away for a couple of months, so that number doesn't exist anymore. But there's other scenarios here. So I believe when she was on the path, she's a bad kid. That's how I labeled her. But I had to coach her to tell her what the consequences were, and hopefully she'll not do it in the future.
Rohan, I got a question. I think she's a good kid. She just made a bad decision, bad choice, because the scams are out there. I mean, it almost happened to me. Somebody sent me some money. They deposit this into your bank account, and when it goes through, then you can take half of it. I'm thinking, hey, this doesn't sound right. No, I called my sister and we talked about it, and she did some digging and found out it was a scam. It's still going on. They're still out there. I think that's a teachable moment for our children. That happens. It's a teachable moment.
And keep in mind that they're aiming for children, because if you notice, he mentioned he called his sister to investigate, but a child is innocent, and some people will abuse that, so to speak. Yep.
Well, you know what? I don't think we may heard of the I think good child or good kid, bad kid is a stigma, period. You ask me. Right. I know that's a stigma. I think that's a stigma of injustice that because youth don't really have a voice. And so we as you, and when we were you, we've been enduring that thing for years. And so people depending on their perception. And you got to understand, to just come to one of those terminologies is a judgment within itself. And by children, being young give you the right to be wrong. You understand? Automatically. That's just your natural right. And so for people to say that, oh, that's a good kid and that's a bad kid, and I experienced it with my own children, but I also experienced it when I was a child. I'm going to give you my experience as a child. Yeah, I am the same guy, right? And in my mom's environment and my dad's environment, which those two lived in two totally different environments. So my mom always lived in the hood environments. We always lived in the, inner cities, etc., various ghettos. And then in my dad's environment, we lived middle class. All right. And so here I am, the same guy, same person, same kid. When I was living in the ghetto, in the hood and all that, I was considered the good kid. But you take that ghetto kid and put him in the suburbs, then I was considered the bad kid. And all that judgment came literally only not because the kid changed, but my environment changed. And
Right.
so what I found out was, I'm like, wow, so your environment dictate who you are? This is why I think the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air resonated with so many people, because that explained for a lot of people, especially if you came from a two-parent household, the experiences of kids who may have lived in one environment that may have not been so well-to-do, and then you transition go spend time with another parent who may have been well-to-do, and I can guarantee you the experience was exactly the same. And so I was, and I wait till you see the other topic that I'm going to come up with, Ron. That's going to be just as parallel to this one, because you talk about the good kid, bad kid. Imagine being labeled the black kid, white kid, and you're black. So
Right.
I understood the dynamics of that because I lived it, and I understood the kid didn't change it, the environment changed, but just because the environment, I was judged simply on my character or the type of child I was predicated on the type of environment I was in.
As you guys are bringing that up, I want us to almost, and I think Lana, you might have hit it right on the head, this idea of who determines what's a good kid versus a bad kid.
Mm-hmm.
We have societal constructs that would say that a boy in a hoodie with I'm glad to take it back with some Skittles, the Arizona iced tea, is a bad dude, a bad character. Yeah, he ain't did nothing. Just that the idea that this kid had that on in this, as you said, Lionel, in this area. If that same kid was in his neighborhood where he was from, people be saying, "Man, that's a good kid. He's good, man. He's a good kid with the same outfit on and the same items." So we have to think about what we do as fathers that establish this idea of making our children feel if they're good or if they're bad. And us not and I think sometimes 24/7 dad talks about this idea of, us not blaming the actor, but blaming the actions when we talk about things that our kids do, both for the positive and the negative. We want to always build the strength for our children. So I don't want to keep picking on you, but when you're my friend, I feel privileged.
What? Okay. Yep.
We brought the case study up about the daughter in the check and the money and thing, right?
Right.
We also can look at sometimes that can determine if we a good kid or a bad kid. Money. If you have money, no matter what you do, even if you do wrong things, like rape a girl and throw her behind a dumpster, kid did that. If you got money, well, the judges say, well, you got money and give it a tap on the head, frontal lobe not developed. So you know, it's about also how money plays in it. We want money, but also how money plays in this definition identification of good kid, bad kid. But I ain't never heard anybody say rich people are bad. I don't hear them say it, even though we may know otherwise. We don't hear people saying, "Oh, them rich people bad. They gonna do this and do that." You know, a few people will, but clearly somebody ain't got no money. Better hide the children, hide the dog, hide your clothes, hide everything, because they're gonna take it. And that's not always true either.
But they I think they don't really show that on television. They always show I'm not, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell the truth.
Black people as being bad versus, well, I'm gonna say people with, I ain't gonna say black, I'm gonna say people with no money is being bad, and people with money with is good. But that can go both ways. The only thing that the difference is people with money, they have the money to buy lawyers and everything. You know, they have the research, versus poor people, you know, they can have it too, but they have to do more research and more trying to figure out what lawyer, you know, is gonna be good for them, the pay rate and all that kind of stuff, you know. And also, let me see. Also, with the I won't say good versus bad. I'm gonna say, let's say you have two kids in the same household. So you saying one kid is good, one kid is bad, but who determine that? Do the parents determine that, or society or the teachers? Because just because, you know, we see things one way, I'm gonna say one kid taking a different path than the other kid. Everybody assume because they're raised in the same household, it should be the same, but no, everybody's different.
No, it's a very good point. And I'm gonna chime in. I want to take it a little bit before, because I want to comment on both of these things. Rohan's example was to me a good example of a way where you label an action versus label the child. Because when you have a good kid, bad kid, it's their actions that really make you develop oh, this is my good kid, this is my bad kid, right? And like alluding to what Frederick was saying, when you have two kids in the same household, because they don't behave the same, parents have a tendency to start to say, well, because this one child listens to everything I say and does everything I tell them to do, that's my good child. Because you question what I'm telling you, you're my bad child. So we tend to, with the bad kids at a very young age, because they ask the question, why, we tend to stifle their curiosity. And we limit the growth that they're going to have by asking why, because when we stop them there, sometimes it tends to come out in the actions they do, instead of asking the questions, well, instead of you telling me why, I'm gonna go find out why. And it leads to more actions, which labels them a bad kid. Versus the good kid, you're gonna stick to that kid, and you're gonna give that kid, and always give that good kid a lot more positive attention, which leads that kid into a better path. And the bad kid, you're gonna always give the negative attention to, which continues that kid on a negative path. And a lot of times we don't see that. A lot of times it's when we have a bad kid, are we not identifying with that child to help them to curb what we consider bad behavior and turn it into a positive thing? And so it's all about, like you know, was alluded to before, it's all about looking at the actions that's being taken and not going in one, you know, not being headstrong in one direction to say, hey, you know what? Because you're misbehaving, you must be bad. Instead of saying, why are you misbehaving? Instead of trying to delve into why the kid's behaving a certain way. And I'll tell you from a professional standpoint, a lot of times when I did a lot of home visits, that's really what it boiled down to. Yeah, my kid's terrible, he's bad. And it's not, no, your kid's not bad. The actions they're doing are bad. Have you tried this in order to help them out? Because a lot of times parents want people to help the parents out, right? But sometimes it's the kid who needs help so that the parents can better understand them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so sometimes we have to, when you're looking at good versus bad, which like one was saying, that's such a labeling tool, and it's a divisive tool that we start to use when we put it on kids, because once we start to segregate the kids good versus bad, and we continuously inform them that they're bad, they have no choice in their head but to continue to be bad. And so I'm going to do bad things because that's what gets the attention. But a lot of times when you start at a very young age with kids who are going, in the corrective behavior, and you start to learn them, it changes the way you deal with them, and it changes the way they deal with society, and changes the way they deal with everything else. Because until you can stop labeling the kids good and bad, it's going to be very hard to change the way they view themselves so they can ignore what society is telling them that they are.
Right. Okay, that's really a great point, Gene, because we have to remember the social construction of what occurs in a lot of these situations. And as a classroom, as a classroom teacher who has taught at multiple levels, usually kids come in and they're in the fence middle way. Most kids in the middle way. And usually classroom management for a lot of teachers, despite whatever goes on at home, is determining who's the bad kids and who's the good kids, right? And the average teacher, if they're not good, don't have good investment, they're just going to deal with the good kids. But they put those good kids in like a category. Like them the ones that can read. Mm-hmm. Just because they read don't mean they're good kids, okay? But they're easy to deal with. The easier people to deal with are the good kids. When really a lot of times, if you dealt with the kids that were a little bit more difficult, you find that they're a lot more, they're way more good than those kids who have a lot of skills, but we don't do that. And then they end up going from on the wall in that wall area to the back. So next thing you know, you only got 3 kids in your class. That's good. And everybody else standing around talking, playing Instagram posts out loud, playing tic-tac, pag-wag, ringing Rosie, everything you can think while you're trying to do instructions. But that is, again, I'll bring it back to the adult, back to the teacher. That's on you. Because you should have focused on the alleged bad kids. Because the good kids already got the plan. They already got something worked out. They know what they have to do and don't have to do. That's why they doing the work. You don't got to ask them, hey, you got your work? They turn their work and you like, oh, this guy's so good. No, they not. We had to focus and remind our children that just because you don't like to do something don't make you bad. And I think that's one of the big things. I was put out the class because I didn't do work. And I then was labeled as bad. Went from being bad to learning disabled to emotionally disturbed. Mm. So you say, because I didn't want to do some work, I went from not wanting to do some work all the way to I was almost conduct disorder, oppositional defiance. How did that happen? But again, if you tell me that's what I am, and I get attention for it, hey, I'm gonna play the role to the end. So we have to be careful.
But Ron, you're talking about the dynamics of the makeup of just about every Black and brown, particularly boys and male in this country. Because when we don't really, and I mean as clinicians, when we really, and particularly lazy clinicians, when we really don't want to do the work, or better yet, value you as a person. And so if you're a black and a brown boy and I don't really value you as a person, or you're not even valued in society, particularly as a person or even a child, then you're going to get more experiments than experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because truthfully, if you was valued, then they would have validated the experience and probably learned something from it.
Mm.
But because they didn't, they put the experiment on you, and in turn you got the labels. And guess what? You just fell through the crack until God, through the cracks until God showed them different. And so that's the, and again, I am not against mental health, right? But I am, and people are like, well, I'm not against mental health treatment, but I am against the mistreatment of mental health.
Absolutely.
You understand?
Absolutely. Listen, absolutely.
And so that's the thing. And I'm like, and I think that's why we know on a common sense level, we have to know. And I think there has to be some type of cultural competency when you're seeking therapy.
Yeah.
If that person can't relate to who you are, because the same thing when it comes to parenting, it's amazing how the profession and parenting run hand in hand. Because if this child didn't act like you, because as parents, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm guilty of it too, we want to raise the children that we were. But God ain't gonna give you no cheat sheet.
Yeah.
God said, no, you're gonna raise the children you deserve, not the children you were.
Amen.
And so that's the problem, I think, with most parents. And I think just like with the mental health profession, parenting suffers with the same thing, because mostly, fundamentally, as human beings, we're lazy. And we don't like complex unless we have to really deal with it. And especially, and we don't want to deal with it for free. So, I mean, that's just our nature. And I think that's the dynamics that we have to navigate throughout this whole, not just parenting process, but just the relationship process, be it personal or professional.
You know, like when I went up that, we are sometimes as parents, we want to raise the kids that we wish we were. And so sometimes we forget how we behaved when we were kids and act like we were angels. And so when our kid comes around and starts acting out, we act like that's foreign to us. And we forget the type of kids, the things that we did. And sometimes as a parent raising certain children and doing certain behaviors, we should harness our past in order to be able to explain to them and understand what's going on with them. Because I tell you what, I think some experiences that we have are just innately passed on to our kids, because sometimes our kids act just like us. And we're like, what the heck? Why did you do that? And then we got to remember that we used to do the same thing when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Because there are oftentimes you will hear someone say, yo, he has your personality, or she has your personality. You guys act the same. And that's something that's, for me, I really believe that's inherited. And once you understand how to deal with yourself as a person, you have no other choice but to know how to deal with someone else.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to take that into consideration. A lot of times we as parents forget our past and make up stories to these kids that we have as if nothing ever went wrong with us. And that puts a harder time on these kids, because they already feel like the experience that they have, no one else would ever have them. And they don't understand that everything just comes around in a circle. The same things that happened when I was a kid are coming right back around, and I'm seeing them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just everything comes in full circle. There's nothing new under the sun.
I'd like to add a quick one to that. Fathers and mothers, if they're on this medium. Teachers do 50% of the work. Parent need to also do some of the work. Because in reality, many times we see children are dropped at school, picked up from school, and that's it. And we are expecting these teachers to be mom and dad and a teacher. Think about it. Well, how can a teacher be mom and dad and a teacher to what? Maybe 20 kids in the class. Sometimes I'm putting it out there. Pull up a YouTube, do a video with your child. Even at 10 minutes, we find time to be on the phone. I'm going to say I'm guilty for that. We find time to be on WhatsApp or whatever, YouTube or whatever medium we use. But let's find some time for our kids. Show them how to eat, or show them how to a video about diabetes. So there's more that can be done from parents. You know, we're looking fine, we're looking nice, but our kids need to look fine and nice also, just like us. So I just want to put that out there. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I'm guilty of it, and I'm gonna take blame. But try half an hour a day. The child will remember you for that.
Well, listen, I'm gonna say, you know, teachers, I'm gonna change the number just a little bit, Ron. Teacher has 100% of responsibility when it comes to socialization, academics, right? During their time. See, I wanna make it very clear. During their time, it's not 50% they need to give. They need to give 100. They get, and I know we don't get paid what you think you should get paid, but you shouldn't be doing it for the pay. You should be doing it for humanity. The idea that you're going to have generations after you, that may, hold on one second, fellas, that may not, you know, that may need your guidance. And if you don't guide them, for your part, again, because the parents got their own 100% they need to be doing. We're not giving the cop. See, this is a cop-out thing. And if you really want to be a good parent and a good teacher, you're going to work together to get that child 200%. I'm just keeping it real. Call the parent, teacher call the parent call the teacher. Make sure the kid is just like a good relationship, like dads and mothers working together, you know. But if we going at it at odds and at differences and what have you, only person losing is the child.
That's right.
We see a lot. I mean, one of the big things that I hear a lot of teachers think people argue about is the entitlement that they see children have today, right? And I talk about this a lot because the entitlement only comes from parents trying to give their kids what they didn't have. They're not gonna let anybody hurt their baby. They're gonna make sure they're gonna take. So a lot of past traumas for parents is filtered onto their kids, even though the kids might not be having no trauma, but they're reaping all the benefits of the past traumas. So you can't somebody even tell some kids something. I had a kid in the room. I told him, "Dog, it's your responsibility to do your work." You know what the first thing he did? He called his mom on the phone in the class. Mama, this man telling me about it's my fault because I ain't do my work. I was like, what? Whose fault is it? We've been in class the whole time. When I say where you work at, you've been on the computer the whole time, but you ain't do no work. Dog, you can't keep on using those excuses. You're in 12th grade, Doc. It'd be different in your 9th grade. I'll let it slide because I'll be like, you got some maturity. You're in 12th grade, Doc. You about to walk out of here and walk to somebody's job and they say, we need you to watch this machine every 5 minutes. Not your phone, but watch the machine every 5 minutes and push the button. And then you'd be like Homer Simpson up there. The whole town then fell apart because you watching your phone, you're doing something else, Doc. You're doing something else, and I'm not coming down on you. I'm trying to be rough. I'm just telling you, get you prepared for the real world.
Yeah.
As a young Black man who's gonna be trying to look for the finances to provide for yourself, and hopefully, and probably the way all y'all keep talking about these girls y'all trying to get at, probably gonna end up having to provide for a young lady and a seed. That's all you're talking about. Hey, baby, hey, baby, hey, baby. I tell the hey man, stop with the hey baby. You better be hey books. Get your paper up first. Get your mind right. But again, the key thing I think a lot of times we have to remember is it's important for us to at least tell our young people. Because one of the biggest things I continue with seeing anybody working in the prisons and jail, the first thing people say, ain't nobody ever tell me that. And they also say, if somebody would have told me that, I would have thought about it before I did what I did. Maybe I would have did something different. Now, I don't know if that's the buyer remorse of what they did afterwards, That sounds like the good thing to say, but it sounds like good sense to me. If I didn't know not to touch fire, and after I touched it, I burned my hand up. If somebody would have told me not to touch it, I might have still would have touched it, but I would have also think, hey, this person told me not to touch it, so I may not touch the fire. My hand be nice and clean. So these are things that we got to think about as the adults. Because remember, the kids going through this again. Another part we forget is the hormonal challenges that the kids are going through during this developmental ages. That puberty, that independence, they know everything. It's a hard time. It's a hard time because most of the time kids is still good until about third or fourth grade. Ah, they so sweet. They so love. Oh, come here, boogie, boogie. But as they get to fifth, sixth grade, middle school is when either you become the horror sharp, are you going to be, easy Archie in the game? So
yeah, I'm not trying to twist, the way this is going, but we're talking about a lot of mental health, and I just wanted to throw this in there. When it comes to mental health, and you talk about these good kids, they're the ones who are under a lot of stress. It's easy to be labeled a bad kid and do bad.
mm-hmm.
It's very easy going, but it's hard to continue to try to live up to someone else's expectations. And when they come up just a little bit short, we stress them out. Rather than saying, you know what, you bring home a B, why don't next time you should be getting an A. It should be great, you did a B. Congratulate them, because that's a step. Once you congratulate them, they'll want to start to continue to do it more on their own, and also make it a goal for themselves, not just a goal to meet for the parents' expectations. Because right. I'm gonna tell you now, when they fall short, it's devastating because they're scared of the reaction of the parents, not scared of how they fail themselves. You see what I'm saying? And it's a difference. It's a difference when you try to meet someone else's expectations. Think about, the person that you're dating, and you're trying to meet their expectations, right? Any relationship that you're trying to meet someone else's goals is always going to be a stressful situation. So I just want to, throw that out there. When we're dealing with our kids, it's great to give them goals to shoot for, but always checking on their mental health and their well-being also, just to make sure that they're not putting undue stress onto themselves. Challenge them, yes. Don't get me wrong. We always want to challenge our kids, help them overcome obstacles, but just make sure they're doing it in a healthy way.
A quick one. A quick one. I want to read a quick comment on that. You mentioned challenge your kids, teach them in a healthy way. I also want to mention to you guys, if we look at maybe the word, maybe I shouldn't say it's institutional racism. If you look at certain zip codes, we're talking about diabetes, high blood pressure. Now, what people don't understand, and maybe small salaries, those kids are in those zip codes. Many people think about the adults that they count at the hospital or the clinic, but the kids are in those homes. Some of the kids go to school without breakfast, man. Some of these kids are going through the same trauma health-wise. Because remember, the behavior, the blood pressure behavior didn't start at 25 or 40. It started from when they were kids, at least in my opinion. So we also have to, I just want to say what Lineberg mentioned, think about the health-wise of the child. Most important meal is the breakfast, not necessarily dinner. Do you drink water? Are you at the gas station drinking up one of those free, those free cups of soda? I call it the sugar bombs. Are you drinking those sugar bombs? Yeah, we have to make some changes with our children, because let's be real, the hospital is waiting for them, the court is waiting for them, the cemetery is waiting for them, and many other places are waiting for them. So let's make some changes health-wise, also in the mind, but also in the gut. Food for thought.
Well, you're talking about when we talk about wholeness, and I ain't talking about Dale wholeness either. But you're talking about holistic, an holistic approach, which is where the terminology the village comes from, which simply means everybody's doing their share. I think we've deviated from that. everybody doing their share because we've been reconditioned for everybody to have success. You see how that works? So we've traded share for success, share for success. And so because of that, people are more competitors than they are companions. And I think because we function like that as adults, children tend to function like that as children. The environment is very toxic. And I'm not going to say, oh, people are toxic or a particular gender is toxic. I'm like, no, this environment in America right now is extremely toxic right now. To the fact that I don't see how we're going to have a whole kid or a holistic kid if we don't have a holistic approach. There used to be, I guess, jaded when it came to kids getting shot in the ghetto. But now when your children are getting killed at the universities and in these unusual places, right? These places where it's supposed to be, remember this, we talking about good kid, bad kid. We supposed to be good neighborhoods. So you got good kids, bad kids, you got good neighborhoods. And so you in these good environments and you have these atrocities happening, then, I mean, you got to understand, I think Martin Luther King said it best when he said an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so until we understand that, listen, your success still can come with a liability. And you don't want to believe that success do have a liability. And I'm like, yeah, you can buy your child a car that they're not ready for. You understand? You can put your child in a predicament they're not ready for. You see? And so, and I think P. Diddy them said it best. It's kind of a weird transition to go from Martin Luther King to P. Diddy them. But more money, or Biggie Smalls said, more money, more problems. You understand? But again, we got to understand what's the science behind that. What does that look like? And I think we have really took the science of different things, what's being said, and turned it into jogging. And when you have too much jogging, you're never going to get enough justice. And that's what we experience right now, holistically, as not just as a Black people, but just as a human race. And so you see some of the most weirdest and atrocious things happen now. And if we don't recondition ourselves, you're talking about to be not just moral, because you can be moral. That means you have a good job, you pay your taxes, you do everything. But if you're not charitable, which means you're all right just as long as your household is right, but you don't share with anybody. You're okay with your house being all right. But your neighbor house, you know, that's them. And when you have that that's them syndrome, you understand you're going to send your kids to the that's them school. And then a that's them college or university. And then a that's them job, because those type of mass shootings and different atrocities going on, it's not happening so much now in just bad environments. It's happening in the good ones as well. I don't have to tell you, because January 6th was a tragedy and atrocity within itself. To see a riot happening, because that's just what it was, a riot happening, taking place in Congress. You understand? And just because the majority of the people didn't look or fit the riot mode or MO or the riot look, you understand? It wouldn't deem as a riot. We went for a more professional word for it. You understand? But I'm like, you understand? A riot is a riot. But again, if we're gonna, and back to your point, Ron, about monetary, and we're gonna let status, you understand? Define the crises. That's a good way to put that. And we're going to let status define the crises, then the crisis can only get worse.
Yeah. Well, Lonnie, you brought it up, and I want to then send my prayers to those young men at that college. And one of them, I know his father personally. And I, as much as we, I know the people sending their prayers to the young men that lost their life and the people who were battling or in hospital. I also send my prayers to the other young brother, because this is a perfect example when we talk about good kid, bad kid. Because that young brother who has did this crime, who took lives, those people was on the same team. He wasn't a stranger to University of Virginia. He had attained to be there in the good place. The question is, and we'll find out in the time will come, because we don't know. But what happened that pushed this young man to make this horrible decision to take other people's life? And now he will always be seen, no matter what he's done in life. as this bad kid. You know, and I want us to, you know, and a lot of times we don't think, because listen, I think about, you know, I think about my friend, I think about how I have watched his son all of these years doing, you know, him posting his son doing the football. I mean, I literally, I found out about it, and then my other friend called me and said, "Oh, you know that was dog's son?" I was like, "Oh my God," because I know him. I mean, I know the kid. Not like he comes to on my lap, like hey, let's play on the game, but I know him based on knowing his father, and he was doing all the right things. He was on the path to he was ready to get his degree. That's just him, not all, you know. I'm just only can tell you about what I do, the person I do know. And you talk about the other young men, and then you also think about the young man who did this. What is it that happened? And so we say, here are kids. I know they, you know, people looking at a certain age. These are kids still. They're kids. Frontal lobe, right, Rohan?
Again?
Right.
Frontal lobe, right?
Yep.
Frontal lobe. These are still kids. What was it that changed that young brother from being a good kid to now having to take on this mantra for the rest of his life, being this bad kid who did something horrible that maybe he probably, you know, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure everybody knows anything about somebody taking somebody's life unless you are completely out of your mind. You regret it. It's not something that a lot of people walk around and feel comfortable with. And
well,
love.
Ron. I mean to cut you, but I got to say this. If you look back at all these shootings and all these behaviors, they said he was on the radar. They said they knew about it. And if we look at all of these shootings, I always talk about signs. You know, you drive on.
But Rohan, what's the radar though? Listen, the radar is no, they said he had a gun. He was known to have a gun. That's almost everybody. That's almost everybody in the United States, though.
Right.
That's everybody in the United States. Tomorrow, if tomorrow, you know me, if tomorrow I leave out here and they say I shot 3 people, what'd you say then? Ron the bad guy? You don't know why I shot him. You don't know what happened.
That is true. But they also mentioned there's hazing. There's hazing was mentioned. You heard about that, right?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, again.
So I always say this, guys, and I say this to all my students. There's always signs. You driving down the road, there's a 35 miles per hour sign. There's a 45 miles per hour sign, the 50 miles per hour sign. Many of us don't see the signs. And I'm not saying that what he did is in any way right. But there's always a sign. Our job is to look for the signs. And mind you, we will not get it. We will not see it all the time.
But
we will make mistakes.
Right, the signs. But I don't want us to get into that. I want us to because we don't know all the facts. We're not that kind of show, not that kind of thing. But it does fit into what we're talking about when someone is considered bad and good. And at this point, we only know that what media tells us is some good kids were killed by a bad kid. Right. And that's all that, but we don't know everything. We don't know the full facts of everything what happened.
Here's the crux of it. And I think that your example is a very good one, because here you have a good kid who just made a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you go back to before, where it's not like he was somewhere he didn't belong. He was part of that team. He just made a bad decision. Now, does making a bad decision make you a bad person? Well, how many of us on this show or you know, on this live has done something bad? But do you consider yourself a bad person? Now, I'm not saying to the extent of taking someone's life, right? But we've all done something that was considered bad. But we weren't covered with the you're a bad person for the rest of your life. Sometimes we look at kids and they make bad decisions, and then we continue to enable them to make bad decisions because that's what we start to expect from them. But whatever you expect from someone is what they're going to give you. You see what I'm saying? So if I continue to look for bad, and this is the thing that a lot of times that we as humans miss, that when someone changes their life for the better, we're just so ready to look for the bad, that all we see is bad, that all we repeat to them is, remember when? I can remember, you know, that time where you, and we always allude to a bad time because, hey, that's what we're going to continue to reference you as. Even though you've made a complete change in your life and you've changed your circumstances, changed everything, but we're going to bring you back to when you were less than. And that's what we do to our kids more often than not, because every time they do something good, we reference it. Well, it might not last long because last week you did this. Sometimes you gotta.
I better put my head down because I'm guilty of all that.
But you know, Ron, and this is where you have to challenge the studies too, because this situation poses a very unique study. The tragedy don't match the statistic, and here's why. That young man have a father. Matter of fact, you talk about both of them, the one who was killed plus the one who did the killing. Both of them have active fathers in their lives.
Right.
You understand? So now I got to challenge the statistics. And so now I'm like, what does that do to the statistic? Do we build on it? Do we expand the statistics? Or we just let men and women continue to think that they can just box people's behavior in at a particular decade? You understand? And we never really evolve our studies. When you think about it, and this is why studies are so reactive and never really proactive, is because studies are not really officially done until 10 years. And so when you see the census and different things like that and statistics, where people fall short on statistics is because it's like milk, it spoils. And so I'd have to ask you, check your statistics, give me the dates on it. And even then, the statistics got to be within a 10-year window just to be relevant. You understand? And so I think it's opportunity for just humanity in general to say, you know what, maybe we can improve, because the way technology moving, I think statistics move even quicker, but it doesn't, which is back to Rohan's point. There is no science because the studies are slow, Rohan. So you can't see science if they haven't even put them up yet. That's what I'm trying to say. So you ain't running no sign, ain't no sign on the stop sign, ain't no sign on the corner yet. That corner just an open four-way spot until somebody rallying up and say, maybe we need to make that a four-way stop sign because people are going fast and eventually it's going to be a terrible tragedy one day. And unfortunately, for real change to come, terrible tragedies rather has to take place. That is just the human makeup, and particularly if you whatever class you're in, it gets even worse. It moves even slower depending on how poor you are. And so I think this is a good opportunity, a proactive opportunity. But unfortunately, Parkland was just an example. And if they were rich and change is still slow for them, then imagine everybody else who's working class.
Well, you know, Ilana, I think about, you know, as you bring that, I think about how this situation begins to look at these were good kids, right? And how it relates to, and you said, I love that you bring that part about these was what we would say against the odds kids. What they would say against the odds, because they came from two-parent homes where the dad was involved in their life, they did everything. And people would say, oh, they ended up just like the ones on the other side of town, right? And then begin to try to equate it to us as a people. But it's not us as a people. As you said before, it's us as humanity, where we are right now in our country, how we're socially constructed to be. No matter what your race, creed, nationality, ethnicity is, we have a culture here. And the culture does not support the well-being of our human beings. That you can get things that happen like this. You know, imagine, I just put this in the mind. I'm not against the Second Amendment, but what would that young brother did if he never could have a gun? What would have happened? And people keep saying, "Oh, this is my right to bear." But if he never had a gun, what would he probably could have? He could fall. He could have had a knife, or I mean, I understand that part. but you would, that doesn't happen like that. And this is where we at and this is where as fathers,
Excellent point.
who are the ones usually the advocates of firearms. Now I ain't gonna get no question. And listen, I'm not a hypocrite because I'm a NRA concealed carrying member of the Second Amendment. But I do have enough sense to know that there has to be something in our, for us as a people, better mind, because we just got, it's just, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, for me, it's heartbreaking, and because I think about this all the time. Yes, we think of, and maybe because of a good friend of mine, colleague of mine, she had did a doctoral thesis on this topic of when the person who does the crime, what happens to their family? We know about the victims and all the things that, but what happens to that person who does the crime and their family? Do they stop loving their family member? Do they say my family member is the bad child? Never. That doesn't happen because of people, that's like, I think you said it. It was a bad act that happened. However it happened. A lapse and what have you, but it's a tragedy for everybody involved. Maybe a lot more for others, but we can't measure. It's not the Olympics of measuring the tragedy of it. It's a tragedy for everybody involved, and a tragedy for us as a community to have seen this happen to what we would consider good kids.
But Ron, I was thinking about something. I think we label this relationship with guns and youth, or just guns and people in general. We label it wrong. I think we're looking at it completely wrong because we label it as a mental health issue. And I realized, I'm like, Lionel, it has really nothing to do with mental health. Mm-hmm. You know what it is? It's a psychological intoxication. And simply, and I mean literally, because I'm a man that I know what it is to have a gun. And the psychological intoxication that comes along with it will make you do something that you would not normally do if you didn't have it. Right. And I mean, literally having a gun in your hand is like having a drinks in your system. People don't know, and I mean, that can literally be scientifically proven.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
And so,
can we get a couple amens on that? Can we get a preacher a couple amens?
Amen.
And so, with that psychological intoxication, see it like this, because I was reading something. I was helping my daughter. She was studying it for her driver's license a couple of years ago, and I read something on there I totally forgot about. And it was a question. They said, "Is it okay to drive when you're angry?" And me being an adult, I'm like, "Oh yeah." And when we looked up, the answer was like, hell no.
That's right.
Because of the intoxication, the toxicity, what they call the toxicity or toxicity of anger. And I forgot, that's right. Anger is toxic, but I forgot. So even anger is an intoxication. Now, I put it like this. If anger is an intoxication, throw a gun in there, which is another intoxication. Now you double intoxicate.
Exactly.
And so now you intoxicated with these, what they call these grandiose, you understand? You have a grandiose intoxication, which is I'm mad, that's number one. And number two, I can change this situation in, you understand, in one shot or something like that. And I think with that, we should treat guns like we treat cars. You understand? There should be a certain age limit, which should be higher than 21. You understand? You can't even rent a decent car. You can't rent a car, period, unless you're 25 years old.
Say that part again, yes.
Correct. And then there's certain liability. I think the same liabilities that we put on our adults or even young adults that have cars should be the same liability that we put on them to have guns. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be denied to have a gun, but then again, always think that your kid may not have the upper hand. But just put it like this. Look at the society that you're putting your kid in. And what happened when your kid is more privileged than the other person that he's in a situation, in a circumstance in? And then what happened when that gun, how does the gun change the dynamics of that jealousy? And so now envy and jealousy have either a good ally or another enemy. And we got to decide whether gun's going to be jealousy's ally or it's going to be an enemy. And that's something that we have to come to on our own conclusions.
I'm on board. I'm on board with that. And let me add this real quick because I watched the Parkland case. My daughter used to go to that school. Real quick, we regulate gas. Let me just say this: the gas pump that you go to is extremely regulated. You can't go there and play no game because it's why? It's money. So it's regulated so that the consumer gets what they need to get, and nobody do the Jimmy squeegee, so to speak. But again, like Ron mentioned, guns can be regulated too. What happens when something is not regulated? People are going to abuse it. It's just that simple. One of the things we also need to introduce to our children is love, because that kid texted a girl on Valentine's Day that I love you. Nobody talks about that. So if he's texting a girl that I love you and then go and take someone's life, you can imagine that. The word love, we don't hear it in the society anymore. What we hear is, you mentioned it, we hear anger, we hear stress, people are blowing their top. But the word love, we need to use it more with our children because it can, like music, it can calm a soul. There's too much anger in the society. We need more love. And we need more regulation, of course, for the guns. I'm 100% support that because what we're doing now is not working. It definitely needs to be improved.
So I mean, it's so. I mean, I think it's ironic that this will be our topic tonight, and that incident occurred, and I didn't even plan for it to move into that, but it fits so perfectly, and the idea of kind of really giving us a real case study, looking at this idea of bad kid, good kid, and how that's defined and what it looks like. I know we have. Looking in the chat, trying to see if we have any questions about good kid, bad kid. If any fathers and if anybody in here have any questions, anything really want to say right now, let's kind of get some of that done. If not, we're gonna begin to start to do our round robins and so we can get out of here tonight.
Ron, I have a quick one to say. Here's
Yes.
a punishment I gave to my daughter. I took her phone away until January 2023. Now,
what happened to when?
Her phone. Okay.
You took the phone away now?
Oh, okay.
Until when?
Civilization.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna put it in there. I'm gonna say.
What grade you daughter in again?
She's in last year in high school. She's 17. Okay.
Hey,
Okay. Hold on.
go ahead, Doc.
Okay. I'm gonna say. Okay. I said to Amaris, my daughter. I said, Amaris, you made a decision. She said to me, yes, Dad. So I talked to her as a father to see where her mind is. She says to me, well, you weren't going to give me that money. So obviously, the child was aware of obviously her intent and her how could I put it, her rewards from doing what she did. So I broke it down to her just like the law. I said, well, here it is. You made a decision. You use your mom's, you use your bank account, your card number, gave it to a stranger. I think she gave me his name, but she didn't. That's all she knew what to do. You gave it to a stranger to do a transaction to get money. So your part was to get money out of this transaction. However, you use my phone that I pay for. Remember, I work hard, I pay for the phone, and you also made the communication over the phone. So I said to her, here's how it's going to work. I can do it one way, and she said, oh, Daddy, can I get by the phone now? Because, I want to call my friends. But I said, what happens if you go in front of a judge? Are you going to say to the judge, Your Honor, can I get back my phone now? Because I want to talk to my friends? I don't think the judge's going to hear that, because most likely that judge is going to be maybe colored or of a different color, and he's going to give it to you. So I said to her, there's two things I have to do here. And it's hurt me, because then I'm going to have to make a decision. And as Ron knows, we make choices, but we don't get to choose the consequences of our choices. The jury does that. And Ron says it best. The jury doesn't know you. Well, they know you. You're Black. Need I say more? So what I said to her, you're gonna have to face the music. So I'm being pressured right now by the mom. Oh, you need to give her back the phone. You need to give her back the phone. But I said, but how is the child going to learn the consequences of her behavior? Mind you, it's small. And if you guys, I hear stories like guys in prison writing their mom, Mom, thank you for not taking away the sneakers. Thank you for not taking away the bicycle. Thank you for not taking away the car. Mom, I'm in prison now. So what I'm saying, it's tough for me to make that decision. Guys, it's a phone, but she's gonna have to learn.
All right, Rohan. I'm not. No judgment. No judgment on your decision, right?
No.
But I have to ask this question: did anyone ever tell her you shouldn't do that? Because you have to for me,
okay.
I think it was said before, there are teachable moments. If you're not educated on something, then how do you know it's wrong? I think, and what made me think about that was a statement you made when she said, I know you weren't going to give me that money, which is which is not for me, it's not a bad thing to say, because I know if it was going to be $200-$300, maybe not, maybe you wouldn't get that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But we often tell our kids, when they want something, earn it.
Right.
And so, but there are times where just to cut this short, just to say that we don't educate them on every aspect, on every instance, on every experience that they're going to have in life, but we're quick to punish when they experience something that we've never discussed.
Okay.
And so I think sometimes we have to look at, and this is not on you, but just in general, sometimes as parents, we have to look at the totality of it to say, is this something I even brought up to your attention, or is this something you would even innately think is wrong, especially in this day and age of what's going on in life? I mean,
Ron,
go ahead, Lightborn.
No, and Rohan's daughter defense, because I'm gonna have to pick up on what J. Rob said. J. Rob, you're 100% correct, and here's the study to back it up. Most kids get their first brush with the law or with some type of criminality, and you're gonna really not believe it, but it's true. I'm talking about the good kids now, quote unquote good kids. Most good kids get their brush with the law, or their first brush with the law or criminality in college. And you know what the major crime is? The financial. Check scheme, check fraud, check whatever. And so what happened to your daughter happened to college students on so many levels that average college students, and most college students don't talk about it. But it happens so frequently to college students that check fraud, somebody giving them a check to do this, giving them a check to do that, because being a college student is what they call it. It's a cash-strapped business. I ain't got to tell you because Winston's so crab legs, but you understand where I'm going at. Right. And so that's just not true for Winston. The guy who was the football player, the quarterback out of
Jameson. Winston Jameson.
Right. Jameson Winston. That wasn't just him. That was the whole makeup of just most college students. And because of that, they fall prey to different economic and financial crimes. And so your daughter just had it happen to her in high school, which is an early, which is kind of a good thing because it's early and she's still under the age. But imagine you being a college student and happening to you at 20, 21, 19 at that legal age, where that record actually can stick with you. If the judge is not lenient enough to throw it out, but then again, it still will stick with you because the arrest will still be there. You understand? Yes. And so your daughter learning this at an early age, she is she's more naive because she's not in college, she's a high school student. But once we don't send kids to school, we talk about financial literacy. I'm like, well, economic literacy. Because we think that them little hot $50 we send our kids every week is enough, when in all reality, that's an adult. That's not the little 16, 15, 12-year-old you was taking care of when they was at your house and go in your fridge. You can't go into the university fridge. So them $50 is not enough, and that's what makes them more predatory for financial and economic crimes.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, and I've done class with my daughter in terms of finances, and we watch First 48, and I always say to her, listen, money doesn't fall off trees. And when I asked her, I said, what do you plan to do with that $2,000? what do you plan to do with that money? Then she says, well, I'm gonna have money to buy what I want to buy. I said, of course, we all want to have money to buy what we want to buy, but you got to earn it. And I've always mentioned that to her. And I say, if you need anything or if you have any questions, come to me, because I am the one who's going to advocate for you. And she didn't come to me at all. And in fact, how they found out is that they put the money in the account, but the mom is watching the account and the mom saw the money. So think about that. So the crime started and the mom intervened. And there's a bunch of drama with the bank now. So, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with the phone. I'm thinking about the punishment. I mean, is it harsh? Is it?
Yes.
Did someone say yes?
No, hold on.
Yes.
I was only laughing.
I want to say, let me say this real quick. I was hearing her. I said, does the punishment equals what happened to her, or can there be some leniency on it, some mercy?
So
I would hate for my daughter. I put at my daughter say, and she needs me in an emergency.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking about.
See that, and Rohan, that's the problem right there.
Right.
Because this is where the problem becomes, because when has your daughter used the phone for a goddamn emergency? I ask you. When?
To be honest, my daughter is on social media. Well, probably most children. I'm not saying my daughter.
I ain't asking about social media.
Okay,
when has your daughter? Because we do this as parents.
Yes.
We justify our consequences by what the other consequence is. So we weigh one. If I take the phone away, they won't be able to contact me in the case that there's going to be a problem. See, I'm old school. Unless I ain't gonna complain about this. Look, I can't contact my mom or my daddy. I had to wait till I get to the payphone. I wait till I get home. I had to go to the front office. Because guess what? At the school, if there's a problem, the front office let you call your parents still.
Yeah.
They still let you. It's not a rule because you got a cell phone. You can use the front office phone to call. I mean, you know, and maybe if she's gonna go somewhere, I agree with you, brother. That's a good time, because you know what? It's gonna teach her a valuable. To me, it's a valuable lesson. Because let me tell you something. I understand the idea of getting that money was to get over. You know, ain't nothing for free. And what would that cost you as a, and so nothing is free. This phone gonna cost you. The phone is everything, but it's not everything. See, we keep making phones everything, but they not. Listen, I want to throw these goddamn phones in the trash. But I can't because somebody gonna call, gotta do that. But I want to throw them in the trash. These kids, I'm just saying, it's very, I'm biased because I'm trying to teach the lesson. And joke, I give out the work, going over it, all I see is jokers like this. Well, the whole class, put your phone up, put your phone away. Listen, now I even got to do the lesson. Say, I open an Instagram account. You got to go to the Instagram account to get your work. and that's, I mean, that's moving with the technology and moving to the times, but it's also very dangerous because you got to, to me, it is very dangerous that you got to be able to do both. You can't be stuck in the matrix and not still be able to. The guy told me, man, I don't got no pencil because I do everything on the computer. I said, how? You don't got no pencil because you do everything on the computer. So, I mean, again, brother, you got a deadline. You ain't say forever. That, you know, if you said she can't have the phone forever,
right.
But you gave her
so Elder Thomas.
What I was trying to say is, you're talking about taking away the phone until next year, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, in a month. In a month.
2 months. January.
That is
So
what if they were
saying,
poor? But Elder Thomas, if they were poor, they ain't got no cell phone. So what happens then?
You can't say that here because we do have
everything is. Listen,
we do have telephone. We do have telephone.
Not everybody has cell. Listen, come on. The cell phone is a privilege. It's not because there's nobody using it.
No, it's necessity.
It's a
what?
The cell phone. Listen, the cell phone is a complete privilege.
It's a necessity.
No, the cell phone is a privilege. And I'll
It's a
tell you now,
sense of
because
necessity.
you see elementary kids walking around with iPhones in their hand.
That's right.
And I remember when my daughter was young and my son, they were like, "Are you going to get him a cell phone?" I said, "No," because when I drop them to school, if there's an emergency, there's the front office.
Right.
When they get out of school, I'm picking them up or their mom's picking up. So some adult with them has a cell phone.
That's right.
So there is no need for them at an elementary school kid to have a cell phone. But this was what, over 20 years ago, where they were saying, well, what if there's an emergency? No, if there's an emergency and they're hurt, they wouldn't be able to pick up the phone and call me anyway. It'd be someone else with authority that's going to call me and say, hey, your child is hurt. For instance, my son, he didn't get a cell phone until he was in like 9th grade, middle school, right? When he got hurt at school, what did they do? He went to the principal's office. The principal's office called me, and I showed up at the school. It's just that simple. So cell phones are not a necessity. They're a privilege.
Right. And you know what? If it's too rough, Rohan, if it's too rough, and you're concerned about the safety, go get a goddamn flip phone. They don't got no apps, no anything on it. And because let's keep it real. If the phone is for
Emergencies,
emergency, this and that, go get one of them Obama flip phones that you can't even text on. Go get one of them that all you can do is dial a number and it call to your house, call to your phone. Go get one of them burner phones. You can get them, and then guess what? Then your child has the safety phone they need until that because listen, I applaud you, brother.
Ron, I'm gonna respond.
That discipline, that because it's gonna pay off. I think I'm a hard enough. I think it's gonna pay off.
Well, Ron, listen to this now. So she hasn't had the phone for almost 3 weeks now, right? Listen to this story. The mom texts me, "Oh, she's doing better in school. Look at her grades." I'm like, what the hell? I've been telling the mom from she divorced. I said, why you give the kids a phone? And I take away the phone 3 weeks and the kids getting A's and B's.
Because instead of like I just told you, instead of when I get into classwork, instead of them having a phone to do, they don't got nothing else to do but to do the work. The phone in the schools is a distraction. Yes. If you go to a good enough school, you go to one of the schools where they don't got a lot of strict rules, the person can just they can sit on the phone. And this is the biggest thing I hear the kids say. I need to get a charge. I need to charge my phone. How do you need to charge your phone? Your phone, you can last all day. Because you own all these apps all day. You come to third period, your phone is dead. You charge the phone up all night, 100% when you get to school, now the phone dead. Because you've been doing nothing but app things all day. Come on, Doc. I mean, I'm just saying.
Listen, I'm with Ron on this one because my son, when I say he didn't get a cell phone till he was in 9th grade, his first, 8th grade, his first cell phone, flip phone. I got him a flip phone. I was like, look, you don't need to be doing nothing in school because I figured if I get you one of these Androids, you're gonna be on it, texting, doing all this other stuff. Nah, get you a flip phone. If you really need to call somebody, you can call him from this flip phone. And and he had it. And he had to work his way up into an Android or whatever other phone he had. But yeah, that flip phone was his.
And let me say this, fathers, just a real quick one. I don't know if you guys know, if the phone is not connected to a network, the phone can still dial 911. A lot of people don't know that. So if the phone is not connected to a network and the phone is charged, you can still dial 911. I mean, I always keep phones in my cars in case you think you get my phone. I have phones in my cars everywhere in the trunk all over the place. So you ain't gonna get my one phone and run because I have phones in the car. Hey, I'll teach you that one. Yeah, food for thought.
But Ron, you can go ahead and get ready to. I'm gonna be fast over here. Go ahead. Bring it home.
My.
So I think that, hey, Rohan, thank you for letting us. I know we talked a little bit about the tragedy of young brothers at the University of Virginia, but thank you for letting us use your case tonight with your daughter and the incident, because it was. I hope it was more helpful for people to kind of really look at what we're talking about in both aspects of good kid, bad kid. I think, and again, I think if anybody's able to take anything away, remember that when we're dealing with our kids, we're dealing with their actions, not the individual. Our kids are not bad. Maybe some of the things they're doing bad, and we need to acknowledge those things. And those are the things that we can reteach. We can enact discipline for, as well as what's the word I'm looking for?
Redirect.
Redirect. Thank you, Brian. Getting that brain free. Be able to redirect to where it need to go. And it's important. And it's important for us to knowledge to remember what we construct the belief for our kids to be is a lot of times what they will become. So we want to be mindful of that. We want to be, know when is good and bad. I don't think they're any good or bad. They're just our kids that we need to love. That's it. And we got to love them because guess what? For sure, if you look close enough, you see a part of you that wasn't never shady. In the words of Tupac, that's what you see, and that's where it really, because when you see all the shady stuff come, that's you. All the stuff that you don't like, that's you or your partner. So it ain't them. They came, we mold them into what they are, and then they mold themselves around and make their own individual decisions from that. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, if you're watching this, rewatching it, like, share, subscribe to us. You can definitely join us tomorrow. We're going to have probably a really intimate talk tomorrow on our Fathers Only Zoom meeting. You can see how to do that. Once you look down in the chat, you'll be able to see where you can go to join us for that meeting on the Zoom link and number. And hey, we'll, again, we want to send our prayers to brother Strickland, that he gets well, and to the families involved in this University of Virginia incident. And so thank you for joining us, and good night. Fathers, repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I say I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am
I am a man of respect.
I say, fathers, I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship. Every time you see us, what you say? What you say, light boy?
I gotta outdo LJ tonight. I see him online. I gotta bring my A game.
When you see us do the flexing, we flexing because we are holding our children on our arms and our families on our backs. Not because we're machismo, we want to flex our muscles, but we're supporting our families as fathers should, 24/7 dad fathers. Thank you for joining us, and see you here again next week at Fatherhood Talks. Or we'll see you tomorrow night at the Fatherhood. What you call it, Lightborn? Think Tank, at the Fatherhood Think Tank.
You got it. Got it.
All right. Good night and adios, amigos.
Good job, gentlemen.
Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Good night, guys.
Thank you for your help, man. Appreciate it.
Good
Good
night.
night, all.